Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Tonight, we will begin with the city manager and finance.
He goes first, I'm not ready.
So we can start with finance. It's on page
56.
Or
Yes,
55.
56.
Well, it starts on 55. Yeah.
The budget is 156, but
Numbers are on 56.
So in the finance department, I trimmed some costs by removing overtime, cutting a little bit out of professional development. And this year, we're looking to change to a tax billing system that would allow people to sign up for email notifications. So this assumes that we're able to cut down about 30% of our printing and postage for tax bills, which is, I think a conservative estimate of the amount of people who would go for that. And let's see, the finance department's cost is offset by about 139,000 of services that we bill to the ice rink, golf course, public parking commission, and stadium authority. That's in revenues on page 49. Someday, we might need more IT staff, given the amount that all the departments use IT, especially public safety, especially police. They're switching to a new CAD, computer-aided dispatch system, and that integration with the fire departments, and it takes a decent amount of attention, and down the road, it might be helpful to have an additional IT staff to help with that, but not next year. And other than that, if anyone has any questions?
Members, questions at this time? Comptroller, Alderwoman Gould.
So with this new system, you're going to be emailing the tax bills? Is that the idea?
Right, so we're gonna be trying to roll it out in the next few months, and people will be able to sign up to say, I want my bill emailed to me rather than mailed. And I believe that they'll also be able to get reminders, and we might automatically have reminders go out, right before, say like July 1st, and then maybe 2 weeks later, and then if they haven't paid, 2 weeks after that. So it makes more contact, saves some paper, and hopefully it will prevent some people from getting, delinquent interest charges when they truly just kind of slip their mind to pay their property taxes.
And is there a fee if you pay your taxes with a debit or credit card?
Yes, so the fee structure is going to be, if you're paying with an electronic check, it's going to be the same fee that we currently have. If you're paying with a debit card or a credit card, the fee is slightly higher than the fee that we have currently with our current credit card processing company. But there's no charge for the email delivery. That's no charge to the city or customers for that.
Okay. And do you have the staff to produce all these reminders and?
It's automated.
Automated.
So
It's all automated.
Okay.
hopefully it'll prevent phone calls and prevent, other inquiries.
Okay, all right, sounds great. Thank you.
So the automation is geared based on a time frame. Once the first bill goes out, no response by a certain date, then the automatic reminder goes.
Yes, yeah, I think we
Okay.
can set the parameters on that. We'll know more as we're, getting into the implementation of it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Alderman Singh.
Thank you. Mark?
Go ahead.
That's fine. So usually, banks does the same thing, right? If you're opting into e-statement, and not the paper statement, but there's a perks to it. You save $3 a statement or whatever, right? Are we offering any perks to people who are gonna sign up for it?
We haven't, we didn't include any kind of appropriation. I'm not sure how it would work if we'd be able to do that, but I guess an indirect perk is that we're saving
Yeah.
$20,000-$30,000 in printing and postage, which, helps with the mill rate, but it's not, each individual who signs up for it won't see a direct benefit of that. but-
Okay. And, the e-deposit fee is $1.50, which is very reasonable. But debit credit card processing fee is a lot. It's like 3% almost.
Yeah, this is gonna be close to 3%.
Yeah, and I don't think so we can reduce that for people to pay with their credit cards and
Right.
not be able to pay that kind of fee because we are paying that to processor.
Right.
Are we charging pretty much same fee, what we are paying the processor, or we are?
The customer is paying that fee directly, where it's not, running through our books at all. That fee just goes right to the processing company.
And can we, how often we look into that processing company fee structure?
We negotiated a lower rate with our current processor during the pandemic because we figured a lot more people, just due to, social distancing and stuff, would be paying online, or so we wanted to offer something there. But our current processor doesn't offer that email capability, and I think that has the potential to save us a lot of money. So.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Betancourt.
Yeah, so Josh, they'd have to opt into this thing, wouldn't they?
Correct, yeah, you have
So-
to give us an email address.
Yeah, so we don't, right, exactly, so we don't already have that. So how do we plan on building that?
I think we're gonna get the word out, I think we have a meeting next week about marketing for this, so we'll see what they have for suggestions. They've rolled this out in many other municipalities, so I think they have their hands are on it.
Would there'd be a cost involved with that part of the program?
Nope, no.
Okay. Yeah, so, and just an Alderman Singh's comment there, I know from, there's two separate billings, they literally bill it out two separate ways, so there's, with the fees, so depending how you pay, even the $1.50 one is two separate charges,
Yeah, the only thing I think with the $1.50 fee was, if somebody's paying with different bank accounts for different properties, then every time he will have to pay that $1.50. You cannot add everything to one.
Yeah, if it's separate bank accounts, it's separate transactions, yeah.
But, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Other questions at this time?
Yes.
Yes, please. Alderwoman Hayes.
So if you're going to do emails, will this new system allow you to do texting?
I think so, yeah, I think that's also an option. I don't know how the
Okay, I
stuff in
just,
front of me, but I believe that is also an option.
okay. And then, question, does M&T charge us when they collect?
No.
All right. And that response of people paying through M&T, from what I can remember, has been very
It's
well.
been pretty steady, it fell off a little bit since the pandemic, but it's a significant number of transactions still.
Okay. I was just wondering if there was an opportunity to talk to another financial institution, that, as well as M&T, to expand, like if, I don't want to name another institution, but there are other institutions we do business with that, I wonder if expanding that opportunity in those, for individuals that, especially people who may bank with them or have some kind of financial transaction with them.
Yeah, I think that could make it difficult for our Treasury Department to reconcile the tax payments. If they're, we're getting some payments that are coming into M&T and some that are coming into another bank, because our M&T is our main treasury bank. We have banking relationships with other ones where we have, CDs or money market accounts or something, but all of the main activity, all the ins and outs are coming out of our M&T account.
So do we still bank with Bank of America?
No, no. No, we switched to People's United, then People's United.
Okay, so payroll doesn't go through Bank of America at all? It used to? That's the last thing, okay.
Yep.
All right, so it's all, those kind of transactions are through M&T, okay.
Right, yep.
Thank you. The relationship established with MT now, still the same as it was when Gualtieri created it. In essence, they have no fees to us as we carry out our business.
Yep, yeah, the transition when they were buying out People's was, like any other transition, it was a little difficult, but no fees were added on.
Good. Well, there's a savings there.
Yep.
The Bank of America, I'm told, had a fee for every single transaction.
Yes, yes.
Which is why the switch happened when Mike got there. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Other questions of Josh? Okay, we're good.
Okay. Can you hear me from the microphone? It's okay? Good. We'll go back to city managers. Basically, I adjusted some parts of the budget down, a couple of small items. It's a small department. It only has myself and the executive assistant. Some slight increase in fringe benefits, and everything else is pretty much status quo based on the salary amounts. So, take any questions.
Any questions this time?
Okay. Then
I'll just make one comment. I listened to you on the radio today, you did a nice job.
thank you. I was pleasantly
A lot
surprised
of,
that
a lot of
the,
callers who
the
said,
callers were very pleasant, and
Yep.
I wasn't sure what was going to happen that morning, and they were pretty positive and very polite, and it was very good. Thank you for noting that.
Any members' questions at this time? John? No? Okay.
Okay, then the next would be Human Services. I'm going to ask Rob Scalise to come up. He can sit in the hot seat over there.
You meant human resources, right?
No, what page is that?
John, you meant human resources, right?
Did I say services?
Yeah.
I constantly do that for whatever reason.
Page 64.
I got the human part right, though, right? Okay. That's good. That's the most important part. Okay. This is a very straightforward budget. I'm still looking for it. Where is it here? After assessor, after treasurer?
64.
Page 64, okay. Yeah, it's down the pike a little bit. Yeah, page 64. There were some small adjustments here and there, but if you look at the budget, it's actually slightly, about 20,000 less than projected last year. So we feel comfortable about where the budget is going. And I'll turn it over to Rob for any comments, and we can take then questions.
Thanks, John. After I started last March of last year, from about April till December, I was constantly doing an assessment of HR's delivery needs because we had a vacant assistant director of HR position. I did that, worked closely with the staff throughout the year, and in December made the decision not to fill the assistant director of HR position, but to increase the number of HR generalists from 1 to 2, along with a retirement plans administrator. So that move saved approximately $25,000 in salary in not filling that position. Each of the staff picked up some duties of the former assistant director position. And so each was awarded the same modest salary increase. So their salaries are all the same. And I'd like to point out that on page 64 of the proposed budget, in the far right-hand column under salaries, and Josh is aware of this also, he and I realized that the salaries here were not updated for the current salaries. So under retirement plan administrator and the HR generalist position, of which there are 2, the latter, those current salaries are $70,684. And those should be in the 25-26 proposed budget amount, should be in the left-hand column. And in the right, if we're assuming a 3% increase, that would show a $72,805 in the far right-hand column under proposed budget, if that ends up being approved by council or whatever it is and it ends up being approved.
I reviewed this a few times and missed it, so that's me. That's all my fault.
Well, no, I also missed it on my review as a department.
So you're all human then, is that what you're admitting to that? Yes. Okay, just checking.
No, but I had the final review and I missed it also, so we collaborated together this week. So I wanted to point that out to council.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, can I take any questions?
Questions, members? Alderman Betcourt.
This is a general question anyway, really, because, I mean, just as a percentage of employee expenses, the fringe is a huge, it's very nearly approaching the amount of salary. If we,
Yeah, depending on which department you're talking about, what types of employees, yeah, I mean, for the public safety departments, pension is something like 40+% of salary. That's just pension by itself, and then you got health insurance, which is, in the high 20s per person on average. So, yeah, that's.
yeah, so I mean, even here, I mean, not to pick on Rob, but, because I'm not, but just for the example, because you're sitting here, but, $339,000 in total salaries there, and the fringe is almost 254,000.
Yeah.
That's a big number. I'm not saying it's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just, that's what it is, but just something to consider when you're talking about employee costs. That's all.
It certainly is. There are many that are approaching 100% of salary. Some in public safety are over the 100%, and it's mostly pension-driven.
Right. Now, I recognize being a hazardous duty, former hazardous duty employee myself in the state side. I mean, that's, I get how that can
The pensions
happen.
are expensive.
Right.
Everything else is pretty much in line.
Most defined benefit plans are, I
yeah.
recognize that. But I still think they're worthwhile.
Yeah, so the big things in there are health insurance, pension, other post-employment benefits.
Right.
And,
Is OPEB included in that number?
yeah.
Okay.
And the debt service on the pension obligation bonds is, pushed down into the individual fringe benefits lines.
So you allocate the,
Yeah, because it's very similar to amortizing the unpaid pension
bond or
liability.
whatever.
So it's I tried to make it comparable to previous years. So if you see fringe benefit lines, before we issued pension obligation bonds, that included, amortization of the unfunded liability, and now this has,
So you're funding the bond obligation through that line in the budget,
yeah, all the fringe benefit lines,
instead of just debt service?
right,
Okay, didn't know that.
yeah.
That's a new one.
I thought that was more apples to apples by doing it that way.
No, I don't ever, I mean, the money's the money, but understanding how you're doing the bookkeeping means something. So that would make some more sense. So if we're filling in that obligation for, past obligation, let's just say, that would make sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Other members? Alderwoman Hayes.
So just a follow-up on the fringe benefit, which I'm a bit confused. Why are we proposing to drop it down to 253 if salaries are rising, why is the fringe benefit going lower from 24, 25? Why are we going lower if salaries are rising?
So I looked at the levels of coverage on the health insurance plans by group. So the human resources is a non-union group, so I lumped all of the non-union groups, folks together, and I looked at all the other bargaining units and saw what way it's skewed between single coverage, two-person coverage, and family coverage. And based on where those averages landed in each group, that's how it's funded. So it's funded assuming, whatever the average level of coverage is for the people in that group. And that brought down health insurance in some departments. And since it's such a significant part of the total fringe benefits, then sometimes the fringe benefits were less than the year before, even with the same number of employees.
Okay, so just following that out, have you been doing this previously?
No, I looked at that more closely this year.
This year, okay, that's what I thought you meant. I'm just, so you will monitor to see next year where these numbers, it just sticks out very oddly.
Yeah, so if I look at all the police officers, and it seems like they're skewing more towards 1 to 2 person coverage versus 2 to 2 person to family coverage, then, I'll adjust that average, cost share per person.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Alderman Singh.
Thank you. So under performance measures, like we have different categories, right? Percentage of female employee, percent of minority employee. Is there any data like how many employees live in Norwich? Or they are Norwich residents?
I don't have that handy, but I know we have that information.
We have
I'll get
that?
back to you on that, yes.
Yeah, if you can email, that'll be great. Yeah, thank you.
Be happy.
That's it.
Thank you. Other questions? I guess we're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rob, I'm sorry, Josh. I'm sorry, I got to ask this question in between our next guest. When the general obligation bonds for the monies borrowed for the pension obligation are in fact repaid, where does the city sit at that point? Because we retire debt service every year. When those bonds are in fact, we're fully funded, and don't we still have to contribute later on?
So every time we have a pension valuation done by our actuaries, it
Moves the needle.
it moves the needle.
Okay.
So I think right now we're somewhere around 94% funded. So when the day that we issued the pension obligation bonds, we were theoretically 100% funded. But if the investments didn't quite keep up, or
Right.
if salary increases were higher or lower than what are in our actuarial assumptions, there's a whole boatload of what the actuaries were assuming and what actually happens, and then that's how the liability changes. So we're, very close to being fully funded right now, and as those bonds get paid off, once those bonds are paid off, we'll see a pretty big drop in our debt service payment, but that's 23 years from now, I think, so,
Well, we'll still be working here, so
yeah.
You might be,
You
John.
might be, Josh, but
Okay, thank you. Just trying to get a distant picture in my mind.
no, it's a good prognosis, so 20 years out, we'll have the very strong pension system and lower than average costs. So, doesn't happen overnight, but it did stabilize it for the last 4 or 5 years. It's been very good.
Save millions of dollars and otherwise escalating
Yes,
demands every single year.
yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, we have treasurer and the mayor.
Bill Lee's here.
We don't have treasurer. Treasurer, we didn't show. We're going to do the treasurer?
If you want, I can cover the treasury. Bob Buckley's out of town today, so I.
Go right ahead.
So this is a very small budget. There's not much here beyond wages and fringe benefits. Let's see, so Bob and I, like Mike Galtieri before him, Bob will stop in the office and we'll talk about what we think about interest rates and inflation. And he's right on top of trying to maximize our return while maintaining safety and liquidity. So it's been great working with Bob Buckley, and we are on track to earn about $2.8 million in interest in the general fund this year. I pulled back the estimate a little bit in 2026 to 2.5 million. Just 6 months ago, it seemed a lot more likely that we'd face multiple interest rate decreases by the Fed. We'll probably still have a couple during the next 12 to 15 months, but it doesn't seem like the decreases are going to be as rapid as we had thought 6 months ago. So I think 2.5 million should be a good estimate for next year. Other than that, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them, and if I can, I'll pass them on to Bob.
Members, Alderman Betancourt, please.
On the reverse side, how does that impact bonding rates?
So the bonding rates track pretty closely to the 10-year Treasury, and I don't know how closely you've been looking at yield curves.
I've been looking, because I moved a lot of my, I will tell you, I moved a lot of my stuff into bonds.
Okay.
So I will tell you, I've been looking at that a lot, yeah.
So the yield curves it was inverted for a while. Now,
You may want to mention what inverted is.
so an inverted yield curve is you're earning higher interest during shorter durations than you are in longer durations.
Right.
And I think the curve's kind of flattened out now, but so our bonds often track the 10-year Treasury, so that's the one to look at. What happens with the 10-year Treasury will often be what we're going to be fetching. I think it's like a 50 basis point difference often for tax-exempt general obligation bonds, AA rated. But right now, those yields are looking pretty good for the next time that we issue debt this year.
Okay, I was just curious as far as how that would.
Well, there is
How
an
that would
inverse.
impact.
Obviously, if you're getting more interest income, you have higher interest rates in general, and so you could tend to spend more money on debt service. So there's good news and bad news with it.
Thank you. Other questions, Alderman Singh?
Thank you. So just for the information, I know we used to keep a lot of money in a liquid form. And that was one of the things that Bob did made a change, that now we keep less liquidity. We still have a lot, but it's less than that, what we used to have, and now more money is yielding more interest, I will say, or we're putting more money to work.
We have a lot more funds in the Connecticut Short-Term Investment Fund, the STIF fund, that's managed by the State Treasurer's Office. And that's very liquid. We can get money, we can move money in and out of that same day. And it's, right now, still the best deal for return. And we also have, some CDs and money market funds, accounts. But Bob's always, weighing, is it better to ladder out if we think interest rates are gonna fall, to lock in higher yields now? He's, thinking about that stuff constantly.
Do you think we can make any further changes, like all the money that we collect from different departments? Like if it can come faster to treasurer, and again, it could be utilized, right? Instead of wasting, like every day we lose, it costs us kind of money, we lose that
Yeah,
money.
the funds are deposited very quickly. The people bring in deposits often, and we use remote, what's the exact term for that? Remote deposit capture, or maybe I'm flip-flopping one of those words. So basically, you take a check, run it through a scanner, and it gets deposited immediately. So we don't have to wait for that check
To
be
actually
delivered
clear.
to the bank. It's just, it's like using the app on your phone to deposit a check that someone writes you.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Other questions? We're all set?
So in other words, don't write rubber checks to finance.
All right, don't do that.
We can call up the assessor now. Bill?
Hi, how are you? Good.
Good, Bill.
The bulk of Bill's budget is salaries and benefits. One other higher cost is the software updates and management, which we used to centralize, and now we distribute it, the cost to the user departments based on how much use they put into the system. That's where you see that increase over previous years. That's determined by finance and not by the assessor. So those are my comments. Bill, anything you'd like to say before we do Q&A?
Sure. Yeah, that line item is now broken out. That's for all of our contracts with our vendors for, that used to be included in the equipment and furniture maintenance category previously. So that's for our CAMA software, our GIS mapping, our quality data admin system that does all of the tracking of our values. So, I would say all of those systems are somehow statutorily obligated to have, and it's just what vendor you end up, going with. So I guess if you have any questions.
Members? Alderman Gould?
Hi, Bill, thanks for being here tonight. So this is something I frequently call you about. The company that finds the cars,
MTS.
MTS.
I thought there'd be questions about MTS. I have my homework. Do you have a specific question, or you want me
Well,
to just give you an update?
generally, how have we done in the last year?
Well, so we have just hit our 2-year mark with MTS. They started March of '23.
And just in case anybody doesn't know what MTS is, you might want to give a brief explanation.
Apologize. So MTS is Municipal Tax Services. They are the company that we contracted with March of '23 to do motor vehicle investigations on behalf of the city. What they're looking for is motor vehicles that are registered to another state, but are here in Norwich, or registered to other towns in Connecticut, but again, are here in Norwich. They do this from public roadways in the middle of the night, when everybody is sleeping and they're not a burden to anybody. But they're geotagging license plates with some pretty advanced technology similar to what police cruisers use. So they're taking a photograph of the license plate and tagging where that location is, and then their database basically keeps track of the flags. Once they have reached a certain number of sightings at the same location here in the city, then it kicks off an investigation. An investigation is a letter that's mailed that says, we believe that you have a tax obligation to the city of Norwich, and to reach out to MTS if you have any questions or they have any concerns, or they don't believe so. That opens a 30-day window, and then that 30-day window is their chance to reach out to us, reach out to MTS, and discuss, and then oftentimes there's a bill created after that 30-day window has expired. So that's the background of it, and it's done well. Obviously I was a proponent of this, and that's why we started it a couple years ago. To date, we've added 1,420 bills through this program. The city, it's of no cost to the city, this program. Any bill that's added and collected by the city is split with MTS. And to date, the city has actually collected and kept in-house about $105,000. And that doesn't seem like a large number, right? But I would say, although we don't have any jurisdiction to make somebody register their vehicle correctly, whether it be with a Connecticut license plate or changing their tax town so that they will hit Norwich's grand list. Many do, right? I've seen it. I've seen many people that, and not everybody's doing it nefariously, right? Sometimes it's a simple mistake. You don't update your DMV registration after you move. You get caught in the web, if you will, and then they say, "Oh, geez, I'll get that corrected." And then once they do correct it, that's going to hit the city's grand list now until, as long as they're a resident here. So while the 105 may not be that large of a number in theory, I expect, or I think that number is also just growing the grand list because now people are realizing that we're out there looking.
Yeah, but all those people will be, there, a lot of them will be there next year and will be collecting the full amount and stuff.
100%, that's correct.
Right, because we only split the first time.
What MTS actually finds, yes. Yep. Now, if somebody, so even to take it a step further, so anybody who, motor vehicle tax law in Connecticut says anybody who has an out-of-state registration is to be taxed via personal property, right? So anybody who MTS finds with Florida plate, New York plate, Maine plate, and we add a bill, that's added as a personal property bill. Now, again, we don't have any authority to make them put Connecticut plates on their vehicle, but so that we don't have to continue to split that with MTS, I got a spreadsheet of all their personal property accounts that they added, and we manually added them to the 24 grand list this year. Sent them personal property declarations so they could tell us if they've gotten rid of the vehicle or moved or whatever the case may be. But so that this summer, MTS is only going to get last year's 23 bill split. We've taken control of the 24 personal property bills in-house. So that's the plan. We'll do that every year, as long as we can.
Alderman Betancourt.
Just one thing, because we've exchanged some emails, you know, so I did want to compliment you, actually, in the job you've been doing there, and some of the communications to some of the taxpayers and stuff. So you write a nice email, I will tell you. And certainly you're courteous, and that kind of customer service and consideration, I think people appreciate. So I'll just mention that here, that, you know, and at least in this respect, and as far as I know, the people that I've talked to say you're doing a fine job, so, okay?
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
His mother raised him, right?
I'll let her know that.
Other questions, members, this time? I'll just echo what Mark just said. The case that I presented to you that morning, the other week, you responded immediately. And the caller was completely satisfied with your response because he was concerned about the lost company now leaving because the lease was bought out. I'm talking about Staples. Concerned that another property off the tax rolls, and that is not the case at all. Those are all still taxable, will be taxable, and there's no change.
Correct.
Regardless. Yep.
You're right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The last budget we have is back on page 52. It's the city council budget. And I have no general comments. I guess the combination of, you can answer your own budget questions, or you ask the mayor, or,
I will simply say that from a bang for the buck perspective, if you look at the investments taking place in the city, particularly over the last 4 years, the proper use of American Rescue dollars, also helping to create a stronger small business tax base here in the city while allowing us to complete large business opportunities, whether it's the YMCA or Reed and Hughes, you name it. There has been a great ROI or return on investment from what I see as far as who we work with at NCDC. He's not here because of a family obligation, and he also asked permission, by the way, otherwise he would be here. But if you look at everything that's transpiring, things that are still on the books, even those that we can't talk about, and we will not talk about, there's a lot of good happening here, a lot of private investment ratios, 1 public dollar, 4 to 5 private per dollar of the publics, and those are the kinds of ratios you want to see happen. I mean, it's also responsible for our relationship with Sector and the CCOG, and those are agencies that help this community as well on larger scale issues, particularly with federal opportunities, the CCOG I'm now speaking of. But I'll try to answer any question anyone's got.
I'm good.
Just
Please.
out of curiosity, and I know it's a small amount of $10,000 NCDC, going from the 250 to 240, and like I said, I realize 10,000 is not a huge amount, but
Actually, that's flat funded because it was 240 the year before.
no, the request.
But
of
the
250
request
right, the
was,
request
yes.
of 250
Yes,
of
that is correct.
50, which is
I can tell you Kevin's response, being flat funded at that maintaining that level, he's all good. He said that to me. But people ask, as appropriate to do so at the time of the budget submission.
Right.
But he is good.
he's good, okay.
Yeah.
It's just that I know at different times he has, asked not to have his funding cut.
Correct.
So that was.
I wish we had the capacity to add more, at least one more staff person to him, because the workload that he carries, everyone here knows, is extremely difficult, and yet he manages all of that, and yet he then has his own life, and he manages all of that. I think we're extremely lucky and fortunate.
Always
he's
worth his
with
weight
us.
in gold.
I mean,
Yeah.
we know he's down he's down an individual, and you can see that when we're at NCDC and Foundry. You can see the impact of being down one person.
Yep, absolutely. Any questions, anybody? Nope. Thank you.
Well, that completes the departmental hearings at this point. The hearing is posted for 7:30, so I guess
Right.
we have a little hiatus. One thing